Welcome back to the Harry Report. My name is Harry, and today we're looking at the most popular NBA team by media market. This map was created using modified Google Trends data, which compiles results of what people search for on Google and related websites. Because people who like basketball may be Googling multiple teams, including ones that aren't their favorite, you can say this map is measuring the total interest in each team by region rather than a raw number of fans in each region. The New York Times did do an NBA fandom map several years ago that gives a pretty similar result to this one, and that was based on Facebook likes. But I think Google shows a more representative sample of fan interest. I used a 3-year period of August 2018 through July 2021. I wanted multiple years of data to smooth out any flukes and cut down on randomness, but I wanted it to be fairly current, so I settled on 3 recent full seasons. However, if you nudge the exact date range in either direction, it doesn't really change much about the map. However, if you were to totally change the date range to the 4-year period in which LeBron James played on the Cavaliers and the Cavaliers and Warriors faced off in 4 straight finals, you would see that most of the East would be Cavalier gold and most of the West would be Warrior blue. If you were to start fact checking me by querying Google Trends yourself, you may notice some differences with this map. The historical Google Trends data changes a little each day. I used the Python package pytrends to run the analysis, and from day to day I kept getting similar but slightly different results. So this is the average of 7 consecutive days of running the program. Now that I've got those disclaimers out of the way, let's look at the map. I used Tableau Public to compile this data, and I've included a link to the workbook in the description. There are 24 colors that appear on the map, with 6 teams not being the most popular team even in their own media market. That includes the Clippers and the Nets, who share a market with a more popular team. Also, the Kings are edged out by the Warriors in Sacramento, and the Hawks, Hornets, and Wizards all lose their home markets to the Lakers. The most dramatic difference you see in this map compared to the other sports is the dominance of a single team, the Los Angeles Lakers, who are the most popular just about everywhere that isn't home to another team. In other sports, teams tend to control their entire states, but in the NBA, they're more likely just to control their home metro area, while the Lakers take the rest. However, it should be pointed out that this map doesn't show how popular the leader is in each region. So we'll use the drop-down menu and select most popular percentage. So now you see the same map. The color indicates the most popular team in the region, and the shading indicates how popular that team is. On one extreme, you see a dark green in Green Bay, where the Bucks have 72% market share in Google searches. In fact, they have very strong control throughout all of Wisconsin. On the other hand, you see regions like Albany and Elmira, New York, where the leading team has only 15% support. I'll also point out that the 4 non-shared markets whose team is not number 1 are all very close. The Kings are 1 point behind the Warriors. The Hawks are less than 1 point behind the Lakers. The Hornets are 2 points behind the Lakers. And the Wizards are 2 points behind the Lakers. Unlike the NHL and Major League Baseball, where teams average over 50% search share in their home markets, the NBA is more similar to the NFL, in which teams average just under 40% in their home markets. There's more fandom spread around, which may have something to do with the popularity of college basketball and also how the NBA markets individual players. In baseball and football, we saw that expansion teams take a long time to grab a hold of their market. In hockey, we saw the opposite, where they quickly gathered very high market share. The NBA just doesn't have any recent expansion teams to test this out. So that's the overall map. I think this paints a really great picture in the level of interest in the different NBA teams by region. Do you see any fascinating observations? Discuss in the comments. Now, let's take a look at the different teams by region. The Hawks are in a virtual tie with the Lakers in Atlanta, but they have very little interest outside of Georgia. The Nets come in at 10% in New York City, which is actually third in that market. A little bit of interest in the rest of New York. The Celtics do really well in Boston and the rest of New England, and they have a solid baseline level of support in all parts of the country that don't have a team. The Bulls are the most popular team in Chicago, but they don't do as well as other Chicago teams in other sports, and they don't have the same amount of spread. The Cavaliers are popular in Ohio, but they don't spread out much. However, as I stated earlier, you'd see a lot more gold on the map if you shifted the time period back to when LeBron James led the team to 4 straight finals. The Hornets have virtually no attention outside of North Carolina, and they actually lose out to the Lakers in every market in the state. The Mavericks are well liked in Dallas and throughout much of northern Texas, but very little spread elsewhere. The Nuggets have good market share in Colorado and get some attention throughout the Mountain Time Zone. Like all Detroit teams, the Pistons are the most popular team all over Michigan, though not to the same extent as in other sports. The Warriors get attention nationwide, though in the last 3 years they're a clear second fiddle to the Lakers rather than the most searched team in the country as they were during their dynasty. The Rockets are popular in Houston and generally in Texas, extending a little into Louisiana, Arkansas, and Kansas. The Pacers get attention in Indiana, but they don't spread much beyond there. The Clippers do about as well as you could expect for a second team from Southern California. Over the last 3 years, the Lakers have vaulted back to dominating the entire country. They're very popular in California, and they win virtually every American market that doesn't have a nearby team, and 3 more that do. The Grizzlies get attention in Memphis and some in a ring around it, but they really don't even spread into middle and eastern Tennessee. Unlike every other Miami team, the Heat are actually popular in Miami and Florida as a whole. And if you were to rewind the time period far back enough to when LeBron James played on the Heat were the most popular team in much of the eastern US, and you'd see a lot of red on this map. Wisconsin is extremely loyal to its teams, more so than any other state, and the Bucks are no exception. Extremely high market share all over the state. Their recent championship has gotten them attention throughout the eastern United States. The Timberwolves are popular in Minnesota with some spread into the Dakotas, though not as much as Minnesota teams in other sports typically do. The Pelicans are well liked in New Orleans, but they lose most of their periphery to the Lakers. The Knicks do okay in New York City and the whole state, but their reach is not great for a New York team compared to the other sports. The Thunder have established a majority market share in Oklahoma City and the general Oklahoma region. The Magic get a little bit of attention in Orlando, but are otherwise pretty typical for a Florida sports team. The 76ers are well liked in Philadelphia and generally into eastern Pennsylvania. The Suns' 46% in Phoenix and low attention elsewhere is actually really good for an Arizona team in any sport. The Trailblazers own the Portland metro area, and they do pretty well in the entire Pacific Northwest. The Kings do okay in Sacramento, though they do lose it to the Warriors, and they have virtually no interest anywhere else. The Spurs are well liked in San Antonio and generally in South and West Texas. The Raptors are by far the most popular team in Canada, getting 56% nationwide compared to the Lakers' 7%. Their dominance extends across the entire country, and they have a 20-point lead in all provinces and territories. The two random pockets in America are interesting. Fred VanVleet is originally from Rockford, Illinois, and he played college at Wichita State, but I didn't notice any other player in the entire league moving the needle for a team like this. The Jazz have locked down the state of Utah with some spread into Idaho. The Wizards have a pretty low interest level and lose their own market to the Lakers. So that's all 30 teams. I've put a link to this visualization in the description if you want to explore it yourself. You can even download the whole workbook if you have the Tableau public program. Be sure to share any interesting or surprising findings in the comments, and if you want more videos like this, please like and subscribe. This is Harry, and thanks for watching.